Wolverine, the cool lone wolf superhero. I think. I don't know much about Wolverine or the X-Men. I don't read comic books, but it's not like I've never seen superheroes before. It would be a miracle nowadays not to know about superheroes. When I was younger, my main experience with Wolverine was through video games, like X-Men Legends, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and of course, Marvel vs. Capcom. I always remember doing that Berserker Barrage with Wolverine, since I thought it was the coolest move ever. Who doesn't love a multi-hit move? Come on, it's multi-hit. Video games wasn't the only way I remember him. I still remember him as the guy who called everybody Bub in the cartoons.
The X-Men do, Bub.
This game, however, isn't based off the cartoon, but more of the X-Men United movie. It has similar locations and character, but the plot is completely different. It was used to promote the movie, but they didn't want to use the same plot since it came out before the movie, and you don't want to get to be spoiled by a video game, and you know, that's my guess though. I'm not no marketing guy or whatever. Either way, is this game any good? Well, the game starts off with Wolverine escaping the facility he was experimented on, and we find out he has a virus. What a time to be alive. That was put on him as a failsafe, but because of his healing abilities, no one knows if the virus will do anything to him. Years later, we learn that the virus in his body has mutated and is able to bypass his healing abilities. He decides it's time to go back to the facility to see if he can find a cure for the virus. I actually had to go back and rewatch my recording because I lost all train of thought when I saw E.T. in a wheelchair come into the room. They really did my man dirty. Look how they massacred my boy! That's Professor X? Is he supposed to be a mutant or an alien? Is he gonna put my mind on my butt? Oh man. The escape of the facility is actually your tutorial for the game, and the gameplay is divided into two major parts. There is a beat 'em up and the stealth section. I want to start with the beat 'em up section. When you get close to an enemy and punch them, you start targeting them. It goes into this one-on-one mode, and all your attacks will target that one enemy. This is fine when you're fighting a single opponent, but most of the time you're going to be fighting a group. To deal with a group of enemies, they give you strike attacks. Strike attack is a move you can do on 2 or 3 enemies as long as they're positioned in the correct way. There is no limit to how many times you can do these moves, and the only thing you have to worry about is the positioning. It becomes your primary way of fighting enemies. Run to a group of enemies and just smash that one button to do the strike attack until the prompt appears. It's even encouraged because you get points when you do strike attacks. Points are useless. You gain nothing from getting these points besides a high score. Whoop-de-doo. To earn the points, you have to do certain actions throughout the level. They give you a certain amount of points by doing double or triple strikes. The difference is the amount of enemies caught in your strike attack. Triple strike gives you more points, but you don't have much control in being able to do them. It depends if there's enough enemies, and you really don't have a way to position the enemies how you want them to do the triple strike. It's more likely you will die trying to get into the position and hoping the enemies get into the position to do the triple strike. If I ever got one, it was out of pure luck. The things you also have to do to get points is bowling, where you take one enemy and throw them at another. Not very effective. Combat points, which I have no clue how you earn them. And there are stealth strikes, which is the most interesting one of them all. I was a bit surprised with the stealth mechanic. How it works is by going into stealth mode and sneaking up on an enemy that is unaware of you. Stealth mode lets you see the enemy's footprint to see their walk pattern. You don't alert enemies as you're walking, and lets you see enemies' cones of vision. There are sections where stealth is optional or mandatory, which is nice, but most of the time you will want to get those stealth kills. They kill enemies in one hit, they give you points, and it's the only way to get dog tags. Dog tags are one of the few collectibles in this game. The game wants you to get 60 dog tags that will lead you to level up your strike attacks. Sadly, this is the only thing you can upgrade or even changes in your arsenal. Also, you do the upgraded version of the strike attack by pressing the X and Y button back and forth. At least it does more damage, which can kill stronger enemies that appear later in the game. Dog tags are one of the 3 collectibles in the game. The other 2 are cerebral files and comic books. Cerebral files are just character profiles from the game. You can go see them and Professor X will read the character profiles for you. Comic books on the other hand are costumes. There are a couple of comic books you can find throughout the game to wear. I do like that the costumes are spread very well throughout the game, so you can switch it as you start different play sessions, instead of having to replay the whole game just to play it with a new costume. It does help change it up a little bit, especially since it's only cosmetically. But I do have to say, the original costume is ugly. I always thought the yellow black one was the original, but this tan thing, it's hideous. Ugh, it's like a naked suit or something. Ugh. Enough about Wolverine's old-fashioned sense, and let's talk about Wolverine's abilities. If there are 2 things most people know about Wolverine, it's his health regeneration and his claws. His claws are so iconic. They even have a dedicated button just to take out the claws. It was fun to just spam the button over and over. The advantage to having the claws was that you can destroy certain objects with them, and they deal a bit more damage. The downside to them is that you cannot regenerate your health while your claws are out. It was interesting that the claws are their own mechanic. I prefer to play without the claws since I didn't see much of a reason to play with the claws. And I also didn't want to go into an area without my health recovered if I left my claws out by mistake. You definitely want your health to regenerate because this game is punishing. Enemies are not very tough by themselves. They will gang up on you, but taking them down is usually not a big deal until they bring their super secret weapon that will kill you instantly. Guns. I know, guns are deadly and they're supposed to kill people, but I'm fucking Wolverine. I should be eating those bullets for breakfast. I should be catching them shit with my teeth and not dying like a regular person. You lose health super fast in this game. This is definitely apparent in the 2 extra modes that they give you. I usually don't mind these extra game modes to help break away from that monotonous of the usual gameplay, or just throw something different at you. Why not? It's brief. Sadly, with how fast you lose health, they are very annoying to play. It also doesn't help that they suck. You can take damage very easily and a lot of it. The robot one is especially frustrating because the aim in the robot seems to recenter itself while you try to aim. So you have to keep the joystick in a specific position to aim somewhere instead of moving the whole camera. Also, if the robot is destroyed, you can't continue with the level, meaning you'll have to die and restart the whole level. To alleviate the groups of enemies from just ganging up on you, they had this thing where the person you're locked onto is the only one who will attack you, usually. It became a strategy to hit the enemies with guns so they drop them, and you can just focus on spamming strike attacks to take down as many as you can. If you survive the encounter, it's fine since your health will regenerate for the next one. Although this health regeneration is super slow. I was waiting around after every encounter to get my health back up, and just waiting makes my mind wander to think about random stuff like, can Wolverine grow back limbs? Can he get cancer? Can he get circumcised? These are life's biggest mysteries. Dun dun dun. Another reason to wait for your health to regenerate is because of the way this game's level is designed. There are acts, and within each act, there are chapters. Pretty basic, like levels and worlds in Mario. What I'm not a fan of is their checkpoints. They don't have checkpoints. If you die, you have to restart the whole levels. Levels took me from 3 to 20 minutes to complete. It's not fun having to redo the first 10 minutes of work I just did. Especially when they put you in situations where you can easily die, they take time to do, and sometimes it's not even clear what I have to do. A lot of the deaths in this game were trial and error. I had to look up guides on how to do certain sections because I don't have the patience of doing this entire level all over just to try something I'm not sure will work to advance. Stepping aside, I want to talk about this little section in the game. It really tested my patience. It's one of the longer levels, of course, and there is a part where you have to find some decoder to open the door, whatever. The decoder is always in the same room, but for some annoying reason, the decoder is in a different box each time you play the level. There are like 7 boxes, not a big deal. However, if you break the wrong box, it explodes. You fly up into the air, fall back down, and then you have to wait to get back up. And then try the next one. Why? What difference does it make to switch it to a different box in the same goddamn room? Was someone trying to show off their coding skills or something? Fine, whatever, but why the fuck did you make the boxes explode? The only possible reason they added that was just to troll me, or whoever wanted to play this game. It's such a small thing, but god do I hate it so much. Something else they have that makes very little sense to me is the rage mechanic. When you hit enemies, you can fill your rage meter. Once the rage meter is filled, you go into rage mode. And you'll be able to 1 or 2 hit most enemies in the game. You'll be able to activate the mode once you fill up at least half of the bar. And I did not know this until I started editing this video. I somewhat skipped over this part of the tutorial. Whoopsie! I thought the rage mechanic was useless, even detrimental in fights. Now that I know I can activate it manually, I think it's a lot better, but I'm not sure how often I would have used it. The strike attacks are still better in my opinion since you're invulnerable while doing them, and the rage meter depletes by itself as time goes on. If it did something else like accelerate my health regeneration or increase my defense, I might have used it more. It's actually a bit of a nuisance because once you max it out, you automatically go into the mode whether you want to or not. A weird way to fill up your gauge is by finding these capsules along the stage. There are 2 kinds of capsules. One that increases your rage meter, and one that restores your health. In most games, these are a blessing. But in this one, they make no sense. For the most part, you won't find these in battle. I mostly found them while exploring area with little to no enemies or after the fights. This is important because for rage, if you're not in battle, it starts to deplete itself. You can't store them, so what's the point of finding them? And for health capsules, the opposite happens, where you naturally regenerate health once you're outside of battle. What's the point? They're hard to come by as well, which makes them even more odd to me. It would have been nice if they had them in boss fights, as that will make more sense. Most boss fights were pretty easy to fight against, besides Magneto. Magneto is probably the biggest pain in the ass in this game. He has a charging station where if it gets on it and fully charges, you just drop dead. To hit him, you have to lunge at him in the air from a certain position, while also trying to keep track of him as he flies all over the stage. All of this has to be done almost perfectly, because if you take a bit too long, it's gonna be too late and he's flying somewhere else. Not to mention, he has a bunch of floating barrels around the stage that when you get hit means you go up, and then down, and then you gotta stand back up. Better start planning for the next position he's gonna go into because you're going to miss him. To add insult to injury, there is a certain spot where you can attack him, which will drop you straight onto lava, and you take the damage from the lava. The last boss fight is not as bad as Magneto, but it has a checkpoint problem. It's a fight that has 4 stages, where you have to do everything in one go or you have to do them all over. It's just learning how to pass each session and it gets tiring. It's an old game and it shows it. Since you mess up part 5 of a stage, now you have to do parts 1 through 5, which gets repetitive. It's worse when it just becomes a trial and error on the 5th part, trying to figure out what to do. I just gave up in certain parts and just looked up how to do the section, since I don't want to replay those sections anymore. The score in the game has no reason to be there, in my opinion. Enemies are not the most challenging as they have the same few enemies, which makes you play with the same tactic and very few interesting scenarios. One thing I found interesting was the stealth mechanic, especially since it's in a beat 'em up. I do wish they gave me more abilities to play with in the stealth and beat 'em up sections to shake up the repetitive of this type of game. Oh well. Hey, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video on Act 2 Wolverine's Revenge on the GameCube. If you enjoyed, let me know in the comments down below. And give me a like. And subscribe. It's free. And I don't post very much, so I'm not gonna clutter your feed. If you want me to look at a specific game, or any game from a specific franchise, let me know in the comments down below. But, as always, my lovely patients, I thank you so much for watching, and tune in next time. Bye. Peace.